Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, welcome to another weekly wrap-up. So today is a bit of a rough one, but I still wanted to do a weekly wrap-up, mostly because I don't know how many other videos I will put up this week. My back did go out yesterday. Again, the last time this happened was back in October, and I felt it coming on yesterday, and it was almost this like blind panic, knowing that what was probably going to happen and what it was going to feel like. And there's just, it's a lot. So since I'm like, feeling pretty restless today, I don't have a ton of books to talk about, but I do want to address the Amazon Kindle, Amazon revoking download possibilities stuff in this video, because I had a few people asking me about it and I wanted to share what my opinions were on it. And again, I don't know if there'll be other videos this week because I am going to take it easy and not push myself to do that. So I wanted to get this one out just because this is a video I don't really have to prep for. I'm just chatting with you guys about the books that I read, and it does make me feel better to have videos going up. So we're going to do it. So I appreciate all of your thoughts and prayers already. I've had people message me because I shared on Instagram how I was feeling, and I love all of you. You are the best. I do have a couple supporters to shout out. So I have a new supporter on my Patreon who I believe that I say the name as Racine. I really apologize if I pronounced that wrong, but Racine W joined my Patreon, and I appreciate you so much. So happy to have you supporting me there, and I hope you enjoy all the content that's there. And then we have Dee Dee Loves Books on my YouTube, joined at the dedicated diva level. So thank you both so much for supporting the Book Refuge. So yeah, we will go ahead and go through the weekly wrap up first, and then at the end I will talk to you about the Kindle situation. And again, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'll talk about it at that point. Let's do the weekly wrap up first, so those of you who don't care about it or have already heard about it ad nauseum at this point don't have to worry about it. So let's get into the weekly wrap up, shall we? I have my notes in front of me, and I also have my good old book journal here as well. So the first book that I finished was Here and Now by Corinne Michaels. This is the next book in her current series right now. And this one is a mom, a single mom, and it is a woman on the run. And so she moves to Ember Falls to continue being on the run, basically. Sorry, my brain just like blah, blah, blah. She's finally found a safe place. Her brother actually helped her find Ember Falls, and her and her son are staying there. And then we have Miles, who he is actually a principal in the town, and he is a part of the Frisbee League with all the guys in the town, and he's just very lovable. I really liked Miles, and he starts to notice Penny, Penelope, but she gets called Penny a lot in here. And she's working at the coffee shop in town. Now, what was cute is that Miles actually doesn't care for coffee, but he does make it a point to stop in there once he meets Penny, and he wants reasons to see her. Now, they are actually also neighbors, and so that also gives him an excuse to chat with her. But she is very much trying to keep herself apart from him. She doesn't want to fall for really anybody in this town, because there's been times before where everything's going great and then she gets discovered and has to make a run for it, right? So it's very risky for her heart for her to fall for it. I do have my emotional support Squishmallow, so I'm going to be holding him as well because he makes me feel better when I'm having rough times. So anyway, sorry. I just decided we'll just bring him here. It's great. So I listened to this one. I had an ALC of this. And this was actually duet narrated by Jason Clark and Angelina Roca. I really enjoy that pairing. I think they did a really wonderful job with this one. And I don't know, this book was just another really sweet one in the series. I enjoyed the first book as well. And I think that Corinne Michaels did a great job of making me really feel for the heroine. And as we find out why she's on the run and we see her falling for the people in this town, you can't help but be sad for the situation she's ended up in, and you really hope that she's going to trust everyone and let them, help take care of her. She doesn't have to do this on her own anymore. And Miles, he was just so loving, and I really appreciated how he gave... Oh my God. He gave just as much time and attention to her son as he does to her. And I feel like he did a really good job of having her son be involved in like dates that they went on and things that they did. And I just thought that was the absolute sweetest thing. I loved seeing it. And it just made me really feel for him and want him to win her over and for her to trust him. Okay, then I actually finished a reread, which I've been rereading this one pretty much the whole month of February. I've just been taking my time with it, and that is actually A Heart of Frost and Scars. So this was one of my favorite books of 2024. Actually, this trilogy was my favorites, and I'm actually annotating sets of this series for a few people who did pre-orders, as well as some of my patrons who picked it as books they wanted done. So yeah, a lot of it was, I was just taking my time getting this one reread, and I still loved it. It's still a 6-star read. This is a part of the Frozen Fates trilogy, and it's actually the third and last book in it. So I don't want to go in too much detail about it or anything, but I adore this series so much, and I definitely think you should give it a try if you like suspense romance or dark romance, or you just love Pam Godwin. I definitely think you should give it a try. I'll be rereading this one again when the audiobook finally comes out. I had started rereading this in hopes that we'd have the audiobook, as I was going through it, but apparently there have been some hiccups with it. Pam has posted about it a little bit, that there's been a few hiccups with it. So we haven't got it yet, but I will definitely grab the audiobook when it comes out and reread it then anyway. But I enjoyed myself rereading that one. It is so intense. And I really enjoyed watching how everything comes together in this one. Having reread these books and annotated them now, seeing all the details she put in and how it worked out, like, it's truly impressive. I'm constantly impressed by Pam Godwin and how well she did it. Okay, next up, I actually read Little Goddess, which was actually one that wasn't an ARC or an advanced copy of anything, but I had been looking forward to this. So this was a part of, I guess it's called like the Black Resorts or something, but it's a part of the same series as Little Dove and Little Sunshine, and so this does involve some daddy kink. But this one, to end off the trilogy, because I guess this is all of them at this point, to round this one off, this one is actually a Why Choose, but it is a Why Choose that includes an MM pairing as well. And so there were MMF scenes or MMMF scenes. One of the heroes does like to watch a lot as well, so there's some voyeurism included. So yeah, there was lots of good spicy times in this one, but this involves our heroine Callie, who she's in a cult actually, and in the beginning of the story she's actually breaking away from the cult that her parents had actually joined, and she was being kind of groomed to be the wife to one of the members of the cult, and she wasn't really going to have a choice in this at all. And she'd actually been called a goddess by him, and the, I guess, leaders of this religion are allowed to like marry or take the goddesses as, I don't know, almost concubines or something like that, I guess is what you'd say. And so that is not something Callie was interested in. So she actually goes on the run. She escapes from this cult, and there's a previous member of the cult who has also escaped, and she actually has a job at this casino resort place. And so Callie gets in contact with her, and she gets her a position working there as well. So she starts working at one of the restaurants at this casino place, and one of our heroes is actually the chef there. One of the heroes is a security guard who works for the hero in one of the previous books, who I believe is the owner for it. The guy from like the first one, Little Dove, is like the owner of it. And then one of the other guys is an IT man who works in the place as well. And so they all have different interactions with her and are very like attracted to her and everything. But there is also kind of a weird situation where I believe it's the heroine from book 2. Her mother was a part of this cult as well, I think, is how that worked out. And she was actually mistreated by her mother. So when these 3 men, who of course are loyal to this other woman and her daddy in there, they're very now distrustful of Callie. And so they put her back at like arm's length and everything, which is really hard to watch because truly she has been like abandoned by everyone. Her parents would rather be in this cult than look out for her. She was almost pushed into being the like, you know, she's not a child, but the man was a lot older than her and was trying to use his position to have her as his, you know, sex slave basically. And she's just really left on her own. And so when these heroes kind of turn their back on her, it's very difficult to see until she gets attacked. And when she gets attacked, all 3 of the men immediately feel guilty that they had pushed her away, that they hadn't been paying attention. And so now there's going to be some groveling, but there's also going to be the 3 of them deciding, we want to look after her, we want to take care of her, we're going to make her ours, and we're going to make sure that everything is okay. So now the 3 men start taking care of her. And 2 of them have some daddy tendencies. So we do have, yeah, like 2 of the guys she calls daddy. One of them, he isn't necessarily submissive, but he does enjoy a little bit of the other 2 men, like telling them what to do. And again, there is an MM pairing within this MMMF that was really good to see. So there was lots of like relationship built up in there. Now, one of the things that like didn't quite work, and this was one that I gave it 4 stars, and it was like a 4 on the spice scale. One of the things I didn't love is that I like some daddy kink. I do, you guys know. But in this one, outside of the bedroom, it actually felt the weirdest of the series. And maybe it's because there was, you know, 3 guys and a gal in this relationship. But the fact that they're like, I don't know. I feel like it has to feel natural for the heroine to call him daddy for it to work for me outside of the bedroom. And 2 of the men just demand that she call them Daddy Marco and Daddy Cole, like all the time. So when she's talking to other people outside of it, she has to call them Daddy whatever. And I'm sorry, that's just not how I like the kink of it, because it feels almost like we get into some age play kind of when we're demanding like honorifics like in public and everything. I don't love it. I don't. That doesn't mean it's not a kink that exists or one that people like, but it just made me a little bit uncomfortable. It didn't fully like work for me and everything. So that's why I didn't give this one a higher score, even though there were a lot of like good parts to it for sure. So yeah. But a good strong like roundup of the series in my opinion anyway. Okay, then I had an arc of On Love Rose Lane by Samantha Young, and I did get a beautiful physical copy of this, but holding up the books, that will trigger my back. So that's why we're doing photos of all the books this time around. But On Love Rose Lane was a recent release from Samantha Young. It's the beginning of a new series, which is a spin-off from the Dublin Street series. And or On Dublin Street. I don't know. That's actually the series that I haven't read from Samantha Young. So our heroine Beth is actually the child of a couple from that series. And I will definitely be reading that series. I will, especially because of how much I've been loving Samantha Young's books. I just don't know when I'll have the time to do go back and binge those. But anyway, this one was narrated by, of course, Zara Hampton Brown and Shane East. They do all of the Samantha Young books that I've listened to have been narrated by them, and Must Love Audio does the ARCs for those. So I had both a physical ARC and I had the ALC of this one. And the couple in this one is, of course, Callan and Beth. And they actually had kind of a thing when they were teens. They went to the same school and they had started dating. They were really getting into it. And then Beth found out that her parents actually hate Callan's dad, who is a really shitty guy. Now, Callan doesn't love his dad either. And in fact, he's really been kind of plagued by being the son of this guy for a long time. Well, of course, his whole life he's been this guy's son. And when they were in high school, since nothing was really serious between them yet, though it was going that way, they were both really into each other. Callie, when she I'm messing up the names because there is a Callie in this series and there was a Callie in another book that I just talked about. Beth decides to cut things off with Callan before anything really happens. But he thinks she breaks up with him because he is a poor kid going to this school and because he's not as affluent as her. And she just kind of lets him think that because it hurts too much to go into why. Now it's many years later and they are actually neighbors. They live in the same apartment building or place where they're renting or whatever. And he is now a football player and it is in Scotland. So he's actually playing soccer, but European football. And she has started a social media company with one of her friends. And so they end up being neighbors, as I said, and there's a lot of sexual tension going on between the two of them. And she actually talks with all of his different dates that he brings home, which really frustrates him because she gets along with him so well. But eventually she ends up having kind of a problem with a potential client, and this potential client's son is a bit of a creeper. And so she pretends that she has a boyfriend to get the guy to back off. And then the mother, the one who she wants to be her client, is I think you lied to my son. If you were dating this famous football player, because of course she says Callan is her boyfriend, she's I would have heard about it and I don't want to work with a liar. So not wanting to lose this client, she convinces Callan to give her, to pretend to be her boyfriend for a little bit. But in return, he, who is looking into a real estate business to be his side hustle, so when he inevitably can't play football anymore, he has something to fall back on. He demands a meeting with her dad in exchange to be her fake boyfriend. And Callie, of course, is oh my gosh, no, my dad isn't going to want to talk with him. But that's kind of her, what she has to be willing to do type of thing. So, yeah, there we go. That is how their fake dating begins. And of course, there's going to be other feelings mixed in. He doesn't do serious relationships, and she is really only looking for serious relationships. So she's this is fake dating in name only. There's not going to be any hanky-panky going on. But eventually, of course, we're going to get to more. So this was very lovable. I really did buy his hang-ups and her hang-ups. And her reasoning for breaking up with him when they were kids might be a little bit thin, but they were kids. And I am pretty forgiving of stuff like that because kids make stupid decisions and they weren't that serious at that point, right? So I gave this one 4.5 stars and it was a 3 on the spice scale and it was a good time for sure. Okay, then I finished my arc of Mr. Swoony by Piper Rain. This one comes out this coming week here. This is the 3rd book in the Nest series, and this one is about Connor and Eloise, which if you read the previous books in the series, which I do suggest because all the guys are really connected in this. The reason it's called The Nest is that the guys actually all live in the same apartment building, or I mean they do in the beginning of the series. As they couple up, some of them do move out and everything, but they all live in this one building together, and they're very intertwined. And also, this is one of the ones that the audiobook is fantastic because it does have a full cast. So for this one, the main narrators were Connor Craze and Lucy Christian Bell, which were a great pairing in here. But each of the heroes is narrated by a different guy, and they are the guy who plays that hero through the whole series. So the narrators who were the heroes in the first two still narrate themselves in here, and the man who will narrate the next one, which will actually be Mr. Charming. They just announced the name of what Mr. C will be. That one will be the guy's book. I believe Troy Duran is who is voicing him. So it's just really great to listen to these. They have really great audios made for theirs. But anyway, this one, if you read the second book, Mr. Broody, this one was really fun because it's a runaway bride situation that was set up, and it was set up really well at the end of the last one. And so we do backtrack a little bit at the beginning of this one to find out why Connor was stopping Eloise's wedding, how they knew each other, and why he felt like he should try to stop the wedding. And it becomes even more intriguing when we discover that they only just met each other the weekend before at her bachelorette party. But her bachelorette party isn't going very well. One of her friends got way too drunk and things just weren't going well. And she ends up, I won't explain the whole thing, but she ends up getting locked in her hotel room with Connor. And nothing romantic happens or sexual happens, but they do talk the whole night. And she ends up sharing a few things with him that she's never shared with her fiance. And then once we are out of this night, she then starts noticing so many things about her relationship that Connor had pointed out to her that she wasn't noticing before. So when we then get to this wedding day, which again, we don't backtrack a ton. There isn't a ton of overlap. It's just enough that, if you didn't read the epilogue or, you didn't read book 2, you could still go into this one and know what's going on. You don't have to do that, but we do explain it enough. And so this does become a runaway bride situation. And though that means she can't, she's not immediately going to get with Connor, she does need a place to live because, she just moved out with her, she has to move out with her, now ex-fiance. She ends up moving in with Connor, which I don't know if that's the best decision ever, but they do become really good friends, and he actually starts helping her check things off of her bucket list that she has, which I thought was really cool. So this was really fun. I gave this one 5 stars. It's a 3 on the spice scale. I think that this author duo does such a great job of making these characters so lovable, but also give them some really heartfelt storylines. I just really enjoy that in it. So, highly recommend this series. Okay, and then the last book that I finished, again, it was another week of 6 books getting done. But that's still good compared to how the pace a lot of other people read. But it's kind of been like a book a day this year, or this month, which has been good. The last one I finished was an arc of In Flight by Noelle Adams. So I was reading this one and doing a content pull of this one for her, but I did enjoy myself quite a bit with this one. So this one's only novella length. It's just 150 pages. And we get introduced to River and Isaac, and they take the same commuter flight every Friday and Sunday. And so they end up all claiming the same, they sit in the same seats every time, and they are riding together twice a week. Now, for River, this is a short-term thing. of her going to Savannah from Boston, or going to Boston from Savannah. I can't remember which way it is, but I know that they live in opposite places, but they're like taking that same plane to go the other place. I can't remember how it goes, but she's going where she's going because her sister is going to be getting married in a couple of months, and she's helping prepare for the wedding. And she does have a pretty wealthy family, and so her dad has basically pre-purchased all of these tickets for her for the whole time so that she can come back and forth and help her family with her sister's wedding. And then Isaac, he has a short-term job he's doing where he is like, I think he's like auditing a company or something like that. But point being, this whole story is with them sharing seats next to each other, starting as a grumpy relationship, grumpy sunshine relationship, them rubbing each other the wrong way until eventually they fall in love on this commuter flight that they're on all the time. So very quick, very sweet, surprisingly still written as kind of a slow burn, even though it is a novella. And it was just very charming. Of course, it absolutely was. So this one will come out, I think it comes out the end of March is when this one will be coming. So as I've shared, I don't rate the books that I read for Noelle/Claire Kent anymore, since I work for her, and that is a bit of a conflict of interest. But I will have a link to the pre-order if you're interested in a quick little novella coming from her. And I don't know if you missed the announcement, but I might as well plug it a little bit here because I can. But she did fully announce the special edition of Last Light. There will also be a special edition omnibus of the Hold series, and a couple other books from her will also be getting special editions. So if you check out her Facebook group or her Instagram, you will see links to the interest form for that anyway, is kind of the point. It's not a pre-order yet, but it is like an interest form, so she knows how much stock to order. So those are all of the books that I read this week. Not too much going on, but I have a lot of books in the that I'm reading currently, including I'm desperately trying to finish up my reread of Written in My Own Heart's Blood. I'm almost done with that. We have book club for that tomorrow. I am still planning to do that because I can sit on my couch and film that with Amber, and I'm going to need some company, so I'm going to do it still. But then I'm also reading a couple of arcs. I have a beta read going, and I did start my reread of See It Through, which I have to annotate for Patreon. So I got all that stuff going on, and I just didn't finish a ton of stuff. But I did promise that I would speak on the Kindle Unlimited thing that's happening, and to give you a quick lowdown on it for those of you who don't know. So on February 26th, Amazon is removing the ability for you to download your ebooks to a USB. So this has been something that you've always been able to do, though I have never done it. So I don't want to speak too much on the technicalities, and I don't have all the answers for you. I'm going to link to a couple videos that I've watched that explain it. But because I've had multiple people messaging me saying, Jen, have you heard about this? Do you know? What is it? Are you doing anything for it? Blah, 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 which I very much appreciate. I don't want to say I'm not. I appreciate y'all reaching out about it. But I'm going to give you my quick perspective on it. But again, I'm going to link to a couple videos where people who are stressed about it go into what you can do to mitigate this and how they feel about it, okay? But basically how it is that any ebook that you purchase, at least from a company that's not an author, so any you haven't purchased directly from an author, right? You technically are purchasing, and maybe this even is with authors too, I don't know. I don't purchase enough books this way to know that. The vast, vast, vast majority of books on my Kindle are ones that I gotten for free. Of course, I've bought a few of them, but the vast majority of the ones I have are ones I've gotten for free, or I now own physical copies of books that I have. But anyway, they are removing the ability to download this. Now, a lot of people who use devices other than a Kindle would purchase a book through Amazon, right? Or purchase the digital rights for it. And they would download from onto a USB. You can strip the digital rights management using a program that's out there, and then you'd be able to upload that ebook to a Kobo or a Nook or something like that. Now, the thing though that is, again, I don't want to go into all these bits, but that removing that digital rights management and uploading it to another device is also the same thing people do when they're going to, like, you know, pirate books. They download it that way. They might buy it and then they will upload it somewhere else to do that. So I know that some people get a little weirded out, especially authors maybe watching it, who hear people who will do that. But I know from the consumer point of view, people feel that if you've purchased the ebook from Amazon, then you own it and no one should be able to tell you what to do with that. But plenty of us have already known that when you buy an ebook from Amazon, you're not buying the book, right? You don't actually own it. Like, you are purchasing the digital rights for that book. And that means that if there are any updates to the book, if that book gets banned, if that, you know, any of those changes get pushed out to your Kindle. And so if there's a book, again, let's say that an author, I don't know, like a Lisa Kleypas situation, updated their digital book, with an update of that book, it would change it, right, to what the current status is. There are book covers that have been changed because of that. Some people don't love that, right? Like I'm currently reading Written in My Own Heart's Blood, and my physical copy has the tan cover, but the cover on my Kindle has the Stars TV show cover, right? Not everybody loves those changes being made or whatever. And if you still have the digital rights management license for the book, any of those changes get made and those books just get updated. You have no say in it at all. I'm probably doing a horrible job explaining this, but the point being, up until February 26th, the way it's always been is that you can download that book to a USB. You can use a program that strips the digital rights management, and then you're able to move your ebook wherever you want to move it to, okay? It basically becomes an EPUB, which again, you maybe are familiar with an EPUB if you download fan fictions or if you get ARCs from authors. That's why when you sign up for an ARC, there is a box you usually have to check that says you're not going to pirate this or do any of those things with it, because you're getting a raw form of the book and the author doesn't have any control over that once they give it to you without your word, basically, that you won't do that, right? Which in this day and age, and honestly in any age, I'm not just blaming this day and age, people do shit like that, right? So what does this mean anyway? Well, it means that a lot of people are scrambling to download all their Kindle books that they've purchased, ones that they've purchased, strip those DRMs and get them saved to a device that is not a Kindle so that Amazon can't mess with your books, basically, which again, they've always been able to do. Okay, so this is where I want to share my opinion on it. And again, if you want to know more of the details, why so many people think this is wrong, what you can do to mitigate it, again, you will have to do that by February 26th. That's why I still wanted to talk about it in this, not do a separate video on it and not, you know, any of that other stuff. You will need to do that by February 26th. Why I'm not planning to do anything about it. Okay, number one, I know some of the argument will be, well, what if you don't want to go with Kindle in the future? What will you do? Da, 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 da. And the answer is, I mean, then I'll be screwed. Like, I'm not making excuses for myself. By choosing not to do this, yes, if I decide to switch to Kobo or Nook someday, I'm not going to be able to do anything about it. This is true. It's the truth. But the reason why I'm not too worried about it, I don't think I will be leaving Amazon. I'm not too worried about books just randomly being taken from us. Does that happen sometimes? Yes, right? Like if a book completely got banned, it would be banned from you. Like it would disappear from your Kindle if it got banned. If it got removed from the Amazon store, that means you no longer have the digital rights rented from Amazon for it. So it would get taken from you. Like that is what would happen for it, right? That is a bummer. But the amount of books that actually happens to is so few and far between. I'm not actually worried about it happening to me. And also, I don't foresee it happening to enough books that I'm worried about it. Do I understand why people are annoyed with it and don't like that or feel like they've been deceived? Yes, I do. You know, there's a lot of people talking about that. Amazon shouldn't say things like purchase this book now or buy now when you're not actually buying. You are renting permission to use a book. Even if you've bought it 7 years ago and it's on your Kindle and you're like, this is mine, I own it. You can't own digital media like that. You are purchasing a license to use it on all of your Amazon devices if you have it. And it is technically illegal to be stripping the DRM anyway. Again, one of the other videos goes into that. I'm not going to speak to the legalities. Please don't ask me questions about the legalities. I'm just making you aware of the situation and that if you want to do it, there are people who will help you do it and I will link to them. But my stance on it is I have over 1,000 books on my Kindle. And I'm just not worried about them all like poofing out of there. Like I'm just not. Again, I understand why other people are. I'm not. Also, what this will affect, will this affect other types of media on your Kindle? No. No fan fictions are just going to disappear. That's the point, right? Fan fictions can't be owned by anyone, which means when you get an EPUB off of AO3 or fanfiction.net or whatever, you own like the document, right, that you've saved to your device, right? No one has control over that except for you. Same as I said with all e-arcs that you've received, you usually get those in EPUB format, right? Which means you like own a copy of that. No one can take that from you, okay? So again, I've probably done a poor job of like explaining all this, but seeing all the people catastrophizing it and saying like, you don't own anything, blah, blah, blah. Well, the thing is, that's always been the case. It's always been the case that you don't own your ebooks. And here's the thing, like even from those other formats, from Kobo, from those ones, that's also like in the terms of agreement that you don't own the book, right? That's the same thing too. Like if you get the book from an author's website, you might own an EPUB of it, but you don't own the content to it, right? You can't upload it to a piracy site. You aren't supposed to print your own copy of that book and bind it, even though a lot of people do. That comes with the like, you're not supposed to profit off of someone else's work, right? And so that is why when you purchase a digital copy, like you don't own it. It's not yours. But you just have purchased license to read it whenever you want to, basically. So the solutions to this are, again, if you do want to strip that, you have to have a separate program to do that. You don't just download the USB and then that's done. Like there's a separate program, I believe people have mentioned, like Calibre or Caliber or whatever it's called, has the ability to strip those. But I don't know, there are some legalities to that too that I don't think are the best. So again, I understand people being upset, but that's just how digital media works. That's what like digital rights management is. And I don't have a perfect answer for you, but that is why I'm not paranoid about it. I have never taken digital right managements off of my books before. Amazon has always been able to change or do whatever they wanted to the books I've had, and I haven't had any problem truly with it in all the years I've had one. So I just haven't been too paranoid about it. But there are plenty of people who are, and if you're one of those people who are, there are ways for you to do something about it. And again, I will include a link specifically to this one lady, I think Willow is her name, that I watched 2 videos from her. And if I had a Kobo or if I had a different device, I would follow what she shared. But I haven't because I'm not too worried about it. So anyway, I hope that helps some of you, or at least makes you aware of it, and you can do some more research on your own. But again, if you haven't had a problem with Amazon to this point, I don't believe you will in the future, okay? If you have already been frustrated with things, then you probably still will be frustrated with it. So that is just what I wanted to say. So yeah, I hope that helps. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Again, if you are someone who prays or sends good vibes, please send them to my back. I believe I will stop being stubborn and try chiropractor this time, because my dad is not here this time to help out as he was last time, and I just can't suffer through pain like I did last time for how long. So definitely send me some prayers and good vibes if that's something that you do. Thanks so much for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time.